Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle, your host once again. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, check out our About section, and definitely visit www.legendssuperstitionmountains.com. Catch all our stuff there, the bark notes, additional videos, t-shirts, coffee cups, whatnot. We just got out of the 2023 Rendezvous, the 19th annual, and one of our guest speakers, a guest of ours this week, was a gentleman by the name of John Wayne Galloway. Now, we kind of met after the fact. For a number of years, Rick Gwynn had told me, you need to meet J.W. Galloway. And he talked and talked about it, but somehow we just never connected. And then somehow inadvertently, we just hooked up. He got my number through someone, and we started talking. This was after Rick had passed away. John Wayne had been friends with a gentleman named Ralph Holder, who had written a book called Mystic Mountains and spent quite a significant time in the Superstition Mountains. So I hope you do enjoy this interview. He was our guest speaker, but this is a separate interview he did with us while we were out there at the Don's Camp.
Well, my name's John Wayne Galloway. Forgive me, but I'm Canadian. 42 years living in the United States here. And 1975, I ran into Louis Steffi, who became a fond friend of mine. Spent 5 years behind the Maverick Bar in a tent until 80, and I met a young lady that we got married, and in 81 I ended up doing my first trip with Bob Ward. Steffi, he didn't feel like he was up to going into the mountains, so he asked me if I'd go. I went in with Bob Ward for 16 days looking for a certain spot that he had seen before and couldn't find it again. I found it, but when I came back to check it out, the rocks had been moved. So I'm pretty sure that Bob had a ulterior motive. But yeah, I've been in the mountains off and on with Bob. Spent time in 2 different tunnels. There's a rock house in the Red Tanks area, and I've had a few folks go in with me. And most of the time, I've ended up with 24 trips under my belt. 25th trip would have been 2013, but I ended up with cancer and a broken neck, so my trip was canceled. But in between, when I met Bob and Bob's passing in 91, we ended up with Ralph Holder, who was a friend of mine, became friends. And Ralph and I spent a lot of time in the mountains, days to weeks, and he showed me things that I just wouldn't believe unless I had seen them. And I don't say that I have seen them if I haven't, but Ralph showed me different spots that he had been shown or told to look for from a fellow named Seldom Seen Slim, sorry. And Seldom Seen Slim never showed up that day that he told Ralph to meet him. But Ralph, was the type very calm to sit somewhere and watch and see what would happen. He showed me a spot one day that had etchings, carvings, whatever you want to call them, of a soldier with a priest, a Mexican fellow with sombrero kneeling down, panning for gold, and a lady with her child beside her. They were faceless, which I believe is where Ted DeGrazia got his faceless people paintings from. But on the other hand, it's been quite a trip. Can't do it anymore since the cancer. But I have information about the Dutchman, and I've been to the tunnel. The horse of the Peralta, I believe the Dutchman actually found the Peralta treasure. And the horse head is over top of the tunnel that the Dutchman, I believe, used. It's blocked in now by rocks, and the entryway is a keyhole in the mountain area, and it's up high, so I couldn't get to it if I wanted to because I can't climb anymore. And basically, if anybody does decide to go to it, they've either got to know how to climb or how to cave, because I believe what the Dutchman found was a cave with other things in it besides the Peralta treasure. A lot of gold, a lot of nuggets, that type of thing. But there was a 1700s, there was a Jesuit priest, Lux, Laux, that came here and brought a treasure from Mexico when this was part of Mexico. And he put part of it in California, part in New Mexico, and part of it here. The part here, as far as I know, would still be here because not a lot of people know about it. The treasure consisted of gold coins, gold bars, gems, the king's crown, and other assorted artifacts. And as far as I know, it's in the same area as the Dutchman. The Dutchman nowadays, according to Google, would be worth about $40 million. The Jesuit priest treasure was worth $1 billion when it was hidden. So nowadays, you figure it out because I can't. That's an extreme amount of wealth. And anybody finds it, they should be, due to have it. But of course, our government won't allow you to. They want it all or you get none. But if anybody sees me, talking, obviously you will. Just my biggest experience with the mountain is being in the mountain. I've taken people in there. I brought people out. A couple of young boys, I was with a friend of mine one day coming down Fremont Trail, and we heard noises behind us while we were resting. Turns out 2 young gentlemen had come in with a quart canteen of water, drank all their water after climbing a mountain, and were basically dying of thirst. So when we heard them, we turned around and I went and got them, told them where their path was. They were lost, besides thirsty. I told them to come up to the trail, and they sat there for a while. We offered them water, which we had, and got them out of there because they didn't really deserve to be in there. Being lost like that. If you get into the mountain and you get lost, you might as well basically kiss your life goodbye, because it is treacherous still. A lot of men have gone in not knowing what they're doing and died. Men have died because of cold. I've heard stories of the sheriff's posse bringing people out dead over a horse, and I've seen a dead horse in there. I believe the story I was told by Ralph Holder, a gentleman went in there with his horse, and at night the horse tried to stomp him for whatever reason the horse had. And when that happened, the man shot his horse, then his dog, because the dog was barking at him. Nasty people, but that's the kind you meet sometimes in the mountains, and you've got to be prepared. It's the type of place that you can enjoy it. It's a beautiful scenic place. I love going in there, like I say, 24 trips. And basically, if you're not prepared to come into this mountain, physically, mentally, you're not going to make it. I've, backpacked in most of the times. I've come in on horseback a couple of times. There are trails that you have to follow to get to where, the treasures are. But basically, just, be very careful. And if you appreciate your life, use the safety factor of it. Because if you go in and you mess up, you may not come out. So if you want to find the Dutchman, come across from Peralta Trail, go behind Miner's Needle. You'll see on the back of Miner's Needle a man riding a burro or animal up the trail hill. When you get to the top, you can go 2 different ways. You can go straight down to the Dutchman's Trail, make a right. You can go over a little bit and follow the trail down from the Dutchman, which is the horse trail, or you can go through Whiskey Springs. And oh, by the way, if you go through Whiskey Springs, say hello to Desert Pete, because he's the one that I buried there. I buried his ashes in the 80s. I took him in twice. The third time, I didn't want to carry him anymore, even though he was just ashes. I buried him in Whiskey Springs beside a tree on the left-hand side. So say hello to Pete when you're in there. If you want to go to the Dutchman, go further down to the end of Whiskey Springs, make an average 45-degree angle right on the trail, go over the hill, go back across the wash, heading north. When you get onto the next trail, make a right. You'll see a rock on your left side with a hole in it with a bed inside. And that takes a long time to do, so obviously somebody had patience and time to do it. You go up through the two rocks and look on your left side, and you'll see the horse's head from the Peralta maps. There's a burrow beside it also to the left side of the horse, a burrow's head, and that's the tunnel that I believe the Dutchman used. It's closed in now because the Apaches, when they found out the Dutchman had found the mine, or been told, they closed it in with boulders. So, and Ralph went up there, I boosted him up one time, and he turned around and went and looked, and it was closed off. So you can't get in that way. You have to climb or find some way of dropping down from the top, and that might be an easier way rather than the climbing. If you're a rope person, a climber, come down on a rope to the area. But go in from Trap Canyon and come back over the hill towards Whiskey Springs or LaBarge Box. You'll find it there if you're careful and you look. If you go on the trail and you go past there and you look backwards, and you'll see what they call a face cave. You see the face cave, you've gone too far. If you come back, there will be a camping area. I believe it's been 20 years since I've been in there last. So if you come back, you'll see a camp area. Come to that area and look up the hill. That's where you'll find the Dutchman Tunnel, the horse's head from the Peralta maps, which I believe is what the Dutchman found, was not a gold mine. It was the Peralta treasure, buried by the Peraltas, who was killed by Cochise. In that area, if you watch real close during certain parts of the day, you'll see an Indian face on one of the walls of the mountain. And it just sets below the king's chess piece, we called it. It's an actual king's face with a crown on it, and the other side has a burrow with two packs on it, like a pack animal. If you, let me think, if you go up to the tunnel, you can't get through it, but if you go to the left, there looks like there were footholds in it, in the wall. If they're still there and not worn off by erosion or weather, you might be able to get up there. And once you get past there, you might be able to get up to the Dutchman. But look for the keyhole. I've got a photograph of it, and if you get to the keyhole, you might have a good chance of getting in there. Now, also in there are two skeleton faces. And on one of the skeleton faces, I was across the wash one day on a yellow rock, and I think this is where the Jesuit priest Lux decided to more or less operate from. And if you look in the top eye of the skeleton, if you can actually take a picture, camera, whatever, and you turn the picture north to east, there's two skeleton faces. In the smaller face with the left eye, you'll end up, pardon me, hold on, turn it that way, it'd be the right eye. You'll see a man in there, a stick man, and if you're looking at his back, he's pointing to the right. It's another entryway into the mountain. I believe that's where the Jesuit treasure is. There's also a treasure area in towards Charlie Boy. And if you go up that way, it'd be on the left side. But if you look for the rock that's a triangle shape, it has two faces on it. The two faces are looking at the treasure area. When I was up there with Ralph Holder, I turned around and checked out this rock protrusion, and it had a hole in it. I put a stone in there, pushed it with a stick, and I listened real quick. You could hear that stone hit the floor inside. Ralph looked at with a camera that he had, one of the old-fashioned 35 millimeter. Ralph looked at this one rock and he said, treasure number 4, 5, 7, and 6, in that order, are located there to protect the bigger treasure. If you found the small one, you wouldn't probably bother going after the bigger one, which is behind them in the cave, in the mountain area, I'm sorry. And the reason it's 4, 5, 7, and 6 is because 7 is booby-trapped. And if they built booby traps the way they did back then, it's probably still a booby trap. So be very careful on that. There's another treasure in red tanks? No. Yeah, red tanks. Sorry. And when Bob Ward was about to pass away, he told Ralph Holder that there are coins, gold bars, and Kachina dolls in the tunnel with the bodies, 2 bodies. I've slept in that tunnel, and I asked one time Louis Steffi and Bob Ward if those were bodies back in there. They said yes. They found bones of 2 men, one shot in the head and one obviously dead. They took the bones, and they did find their rifles and pistols, their firearms, and they put them in this cave with the bodies, the bones, and then they brought the ceiling down on them. So as far as I know, they'd still be there, because the last time I went to that tunnel, the tunnel was blown shut, probably with dynamite, because Bob knew how to use dynamite. If you can find that tunnel, you can find gold bars and coins. Now, there is a smaller tunnel further south and, east. That would be east. And also, if you go down in that same area, there's a rock house there. It's a very large boulder supported by smaller rocks. And if you look inside, there is a bed that's actually been carved out of the bedrock itself. There's another bed behind it. And then to the left side, there's a small stone stove. And there's a window right there, so when they cooked, the smoke would go out the window. And this is all in red tanks. So if anybody wants to take a chance, it's definitely all there, because I don't try to, make something that it's not, and I don't lie. What I've seen, I've seen. I don't exaggerate. All this stuff is there. So it's yours for the taking, except you have to argue with the government. But, good luck on your quest. And if you not only want the gold and the coins, if you want a real trip of survival and you think you can handle it, come to the Superstitions, because that's where all the goodies are. And if you come in by first water, a gentleman that I talked to years ago, a friend of mine, told me another buddy of his had gone into the first water area, and located up there are Henry repeating rifles and gold bars. Now, this gentleman has left the area, so I don't know if we'll ever get any information on it, but it's supposed to be there, and he sold the rifle for a fair bit, because it was an original from the 1800s, and the gold bars he moved to Oklahoma. So there's plenty of treasure here. You just need to know how to look, and spend some time just looking, because you won't see everything at once. When certain times of the day it's cloudy, you'll see stuff. When it's not cloudy, you'll see other stuff. And at the tunnel, I just remembered, at the tunnel itself for the Dutchman, there is an omega with a 6 on the left side and a 9 on the right. I don't know what that means. It may be some kind of a treasure thing from the Jesuit priest, but it's definitely there. I saw it one day. I was just sitting there. It just popped right up. So you have to be patient. Besides your safety factor, you have to be patient in order to see some of this stuff. So basically, after 24 trips and a lot of years looking, I believe I found it with the help of Ralph Holder. Bob Ward got me started. Ralph Holder, who's passed away in 2013. He taught me a lot, taught me what to look for, taught me how to look for it. If you find things that look out of place, up by Charlie Boy, there's a triangular rock with the 2 faces on it. That looks in a certain direction, just the same as the Dutchman. If you look for the priest, and you'll find the Dutchman, you'll find the Peralta treasure by the horse head. The horse head is over top of the tunnel, which is now, like I said earlier, shut off. So find some other way to get up there, but it'd be worth your while. Just the scenery alone in there is just something to admire, and the people that have been in there and passed away in there, don't be one of them. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
So thank you to John Wayne Galloway for coming out to the Rendezvous, being one of our guest speakers that evening, and doing this little interview for us. I hope you enjoyed that. And always remember, I'm Wayne Tuttle, you're not, and this was Chasing Legends.